We got work to do.
Welcome to Highway to Hell, a supernatural podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Kristen.
And I did it right this time.
Yes, you did.
We already did. No, we didn't do the intro because I was supposed to do it and I thought Kristen was going to do it. So we just sat here in silence for a long time.
And just side glanced like, okay, when is she going to
Why
start?
isn't she saying anything? Okay, we're good. So this is the episode where we talk about Season 5, Episode 5, Fallen Idols. And if you don't remember, the IMDb description says that this is the episode where Sam and Dean decide to start hunting together again. And their first case leads them to a small town whose inhabitants are being killed by famous dead icons like Abraham Lincoln and James Dean. Once they discover Paris Hilton has been involved in demonic crimes too, they don't know what to believe anymore.
I mean, a weird description for a very weird episode.
It fits.
Because I really don't know how to feel about this episode. I think I enjoyed watching it just because it was so goddamn crazy. Mm-hmm. But it's not the best episode of Supernatural.
No, it was not good. I really just thought it was a not good episode, but I know exactly what you mean because I will always love seeing Paris Hilton kick Dean's ass and stuff like that.
Oh,
it was just insane, so it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. I thoroughly enjoyed Paris Hilton, and that man is totally correct. I mean, us Gen Yers, we love our Paris Hilton.
It's true. Gen Y. Oh God.
Yeah.
And Kristen and I watched this episode together and did the recorded watch of us experiencing it for the first time. And when he said Gen Y, we were both like, what? What?
Who is he talking about?
And realized that this was definitely put out like before people knew how to talk about our generation. Millennials wasn't really something that was said yet.
Yeah, no.
And
which is so weird to think.
Yeah, it is. So I guess for a brief period in time, we were known as Gen Y only.
We were.
So,
and it makes me think like whether Gen Z will get a nickname. And it's funny because I've been talking a lot about Gen Z recently, and it's made me feel so old. It makes me feel like, oh wow, I'm this man going, oh, those Gen Yers, you know? I'm like, but it's more like, what are these Gen Xers into? You know, like I'm texting my brother and I'm like, hey, you know, do people really wear eye makeup like that? Like,
tell me what the cool kids do these days.
Yeah, basically. Tell me all your cool words.
They're definitely different from us, and I like it. They're cool. Mm-hmm. It's a cool generation.
Well, and I did mention that like I visited home recently, and I do every time I visit home ask my brother what's the new lingo like that I need to learn, but I always forget to write it down.
Oh yeah.
So he told me a few things recently, and I was just like, again, just like puzzled.
I think I heard a new one recently too, and I don't remember it because it didn't even compute. Like I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
that's
whatever.
Usually how it is. But otherwise, yeah, loved that Paris was on. I totally forgot that I was going to clip her really great songs. What is it called? Stars Are Blind.
Oh my God, I don't know. No, I've not heard that.
Okay, it was released in 2006. It's pretty great. Damn it, I might have to insert it because it's actually
okay.
Really
I'm
great.
down. She's great.
Very poppy. And I love that Supernatural Wiki actually had her tweets from that time. Um, so
That's
yeah,
cool.
I know. They have, so she has like several different tweets where she's like, "Good morning, everyone. On my way to set of Supernatural. Have a great day, everyone. And thanks for voting for Tinkerbell and I."
That's so good.
R.I.P. Tinkerbell before she passed. Poor baby.
That sounds
Another tweet, on set shooting. Everyone is so nice, having so much fun. I love playing this character. So fun. Loves it.
loves
Happy
it.
face. Loves it.
She's so good. It's
I
just so
know. I
basic and
know.
like vapid, or is it vapid? Vapid. And but it's so
Vapid.
endearing. Like she's just weirdly endearing, even though she's so simple. And it's like, because it's
Yes.
just she's just so
Yeah.
happy and like
And
everything's
she's
cool
also.
and
Mhm. And it's, I would say she's also
absolutely
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love it.
Me too.
Um, well, okay, this
Um,
episode was directed by James Conway, written by Julie Siege, and um, I don't know. I could go through the actors that were in the episode, but I could also just mention them as we talk about it, maybe. None of them really stood out to me unless you want to know who played Abraham Lincoln or
yeah, there weren't like some standout actors to me, at
something.
least,
Other than Paris.
besides Paris. Yeah.
Right. Um, did you have any like production notes from this one? I don't know if there was anything in the book.
um, no, I didn't. Just those amazing tweets
Oh,
from
that's so funny.
historical. And then I don't know, I just went down like a rabbit hole of like Paris Hilton stuff just because like I feel like she's been cropping up in my life a lot recently.
Interesting. What
Only
does this
because like,
mean?
well, you know how like things happen sometimes, or you mention Paris Hilton or like or anything, and then like it just starts showing up everywhere. So like, for example, I recently started watching Veronica Mars for the first time,
Yay.
and she guest stars on one episode.
I forgot about that.
Did you watch Veronica Mars? I had never seen Veronica
Yeah,
Mars.
I thought I had told you to watch it.
Oh, okay.
I
And
really liked Veronica Mars. It was good. I did watch it when it was on TV. Highly recommend.
it's pretty
Yeah.
great. Yes. And she just plays like the girlfriend of this one guy, and she rides a pink
Oh,
scooter,
she's at
and
their
it's
high
so obvious
school.
that she's never
Yeah.
ridden.
Yes.
Yes. And it's like, oh, she is so 26 years old and at this high school. Like, what is she doing here?
That's
It's
exactly
so
right.
weird.
It was really weird. She's like held back a few
And
years.
if yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then my one of my favorite podcasts is how did this get made, where they watch like really bad movies and just talk about it. And they talked recently about the movie The Hottie and the Naughty, where Paris Hilton
Oh
comes out.
God.
Have you seen
Oh,
that? I didn't watch
no, but I
it.
remember when it came out.
Oh God. Well, I
I
just
remember when
like
it came out, and I remember thinking it looked horrible, and then never watching it.
I mean, I didn't watch it, but I just listened to them talk about it, and it sounds pretty bad. Like really
We should
bad.
watch it.
Maybe we should. Um and then of course, um and I just found a bunch of stuff on her, but because I was like, God, like she's just in my life. But I did, now that you said we should have watched it, I'm feeling like really dumb because I feel like we should have watched House of Wax for like Halloween.
Yeah, totally.
Um and because
Ah,
it Yeah, Jared's in it.
Duh.
Paris Hilton's in it. And also like Chad Michael-Murray and Alicia Cuthbert are in it,
Oh my
which
God.
is
Oh my God, that's
so
cool.
great. It's such a great cast.
Fuck.
So I was actually gonna kind of propose like because we had already been talking
Yeah, is it too
like,
late?
okay, we need some more time to read this book, right? That we were gonna do for the bonus episode for Patreon.
Yes.
Like, let's fucking watch House of Wax and like talk about it.
That sounds great.
And do that as our bonus because it's fun. It's fun. And also it has a really great soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Like,
you know I love a good soundtrack.
Yes. I mean, this is the most 2005 soundtrack of your life. Like Spitfire by The Prodigy, Helena by My Chemical Romance, which plays on the end credits, which is just amazing. I was obsessed with that song. Like I was literally 14 years old and I was like, I want this song played at my funeral. Like
play this when I die.
Please do.
It was a big deal.
It was. Yeah, it's great. Minerva by Deftones.
Oh, nice.
Dried Up, Tied, and Dead to the World by Marilyn Manson.
Fuck.
Right?
That's weird.
And then also they even make an appearance by Interpol. Although it's not on the soundtrack. But like, yeah, like a bunch of other bands, and it's just like
I'm super down for that.
This is great. I love this. So
cool.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm still kind of like kicking myself since you mentioned it because it would have fit perfectly into this month, but
I know. I don't know why I didn't think about that. But yeah.
But it sounds like a great plan. I'm all the way down.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's down on paper.
Yes. Okay, great.
So yeah, that's my long like Paris Hilton tangent. I went down a long rabbit hole of Paris
I
stuff.
don't blame you. I mean, if she kept popping up like that for me, I would have to really look at that and question, like, why is Paris appearing to me? What does it mean?
Well, maybe she's my idol.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't even know it.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's pretty great though. Let me see. We had a couple of songs, but they're like, one is just in the background and the other is the end credits, so I decided not to clip them. But one was called 16 by Lucero. That plays at the bar when Dean calls Sam, and he's like giving that bartender his fake card because he's a talent agent.
Which might be my favorite fake disguise that he ever uses. It's ridiculous.
It's pretty good. Such an ass.
Yeah.
And the other one is at the very end where with the end credits, they play Superstition. It's a cover by Beck, Bogert, and Apis. I don't really know how to say these names. I'm just guessing. And the first time we watched it, we didn't watch the Soon preview.
No, we didn't. And I wanted to know your
and so it came on this time and I was like, fuck!
I wanted to know.
Well, I feel like I need to watch it 5 more times. Yeah. Do you want to talk about it now or at the end?
Let's talk about it at the end. Yeah.
Okay. That was really good to see though. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, great. So for the then segment, we get a bunch of clips and recaps of Dean saying that he doesn't think he can trust Sam anymore. And then cut to a recap of Dean wondering if Sam's learned his lesson with the demon blood. That's like where Sam's like, really? You don't think I learned my lesson? And he's like, well, did you? And then clips of their breakup where they go their separate ways. It's so terrible. Sad. And then flashback to Lucifer telling Sam that he's his vessel. And then flashback to Dean finding out that he's Michael's vessel. And then a flashback of just recently when the boys got back together. Yay. And then we cut to now. This guy is following his friend into his garage. He's like, you'll never guess what I found. And then the friend reveals that he found a car that they've both been looking for called Little Bastard. He takes the cover off, and it's like this beautiful old sports car. It says Little Bastard on it. We sort of glean through the scene that this is apparently James Dean's car, and they're both like in awe of it. And the friend who bought the car gets into the driver's seat, and he's like, "I've been waiting for you to start it up." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, let me go get the camcorder to record this for posterity." And so the other guy runs back into the house, gets the super high-tech camcorder, and then he's upstairs, and we hear downstairs the engine revving and tires squealing and like breaking glass.
Yeah. Oh.
And then the friend is upstairs with his camcorder, and he's like, "Cal?" But then he goes down there, and he's got the camcorder on. And he's like slowly coming around the corner, like recording this moment. He's like, right. "Hey, buddy, something wrong?" "You all right?"
So casual. Like, he already heard these noises.
What the fuck are you doing?
So dumb.
And so then he turns the corner and sees that his friend Cal has been thrown onto the car's windshield so hard that his head is wedged onto the windshield, because it's a convertible. It doesn't have a top. And so he's like hit the top of the windshield with the top of his head and stuck there.
It's pretty
and it's pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
It was fucking intense. And his friend's like, "Oh my God, Cal!" And like drops the camera, and then the scene cuts. What the fuck?
It was already like just there and then, just like, okay, it's going to be one of these episodes, because it didn't make any lick of sense why he had the camera up, and also he was like coming around the bend, but you know that as soon as I guess there were some like shelves put up like in front of the door or something, but you know that as soon as he would have like walked around those shelves, I mean, there weren't even stocked that much.
No, as soon as he like saw past the one item on the shelf, he would have seen.
Yeah. But he literally only sees, quote unquote, sees that his friend is dead until he's like right up close to the door.
He's like 3 feet in front of him. He like comes out in front of the car, and he's like taping it. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, kind of a cool concept. Little bastard and all that.
It is a cool concept. And so immediately when you and I were watching it, I was like, "Oh, is this like Christine?" And then they mention it later.
Yeah.
I was like, "That's awesome." But yeah, you told me about the Little Bastard lore, and Dean kind of gets into it a bit, but it's like, you looked it up, and it's kind of a thing. Like, what Dean's saying in the show is real as far as we know.
It's like a myth. Yeah, it's kind of like Tut's tomb, right? So it's like, I think it's, I remember the first two that Dean mentioned. So right after James Dean died, a mechanic was working on it, and then it fell on top of him. And then another one where it was eventually sold to another owner, and they ended up dying in the car. So it's like, it's like
death
an urban
follows
legend.
This car.
Yes.
It's cool.
Very cool.
I like it. So then we cut to Sam and Dean, and they're driving at night, and Sam's confused. They're going on a job, and he's like, "So about this job, like what? Why are we doing this?" He's on track. He wants to find the cult and try to, quote, ice the devil.
Yeah, that was interesting language for Sam. I feel like a little bit of Dean is rubbing off on him, because he also says he says gank later on too.
Yes, he does. I didn't think about that, but both of those together is definitely like, you're talking like Dean.
Hey, you're Sam. You're not supposed to talk like that.
You know who you are. But Dean pushes back, and he argues with him, and he's like, "Nope, this is what we're doing." And he kind of explains, he's like, "Look, we're getting back together." And he kind of wants to, he's like, "We need to test the waters," he says, "and put the training wheels back and he's going for a fresh start. And Sam's kind of like, okay, fine. I guess that's why we'll do this.
Yeah. And to me, it makes sense when Dean explains it like that. I mean, they had a really bad breakup. Um, if we think about it, this episode comes right after the end, and Dean literally traveled to an alternate universe or to the future, however you want to kind of see it. And he saw Sam as Lucifer, or like Lucifer within Sam. It's like, it's kind of scary for him. So, yeah, maybe he just kind of wants to take it slow.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see Sam and Dean in FBI disguise. They go to a sheriff's office and talk to the sheriff, and he tells them that they already booked the guy who did it. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
So then the sheriff shows them the video that the friend took when he was being an idiot and walking into the garage. And the sheriff turns it off. He's like got the satisfied face after they watch it, and he's like, sicko taped his own handiwork. And they're both like, what? No. So Dean says, how did Jim slam Cal's head into the windshield with all the force of an 80-mile-per-hour crash? Good question.
Yeah.
Valid question.
Great question.
That's like what forensics are for.
Uh-huh. And as soon as they walked into this sheriff's station, like, you just knew this guy was a bumbling idiot. Like, this guy runs the town.
Yeah, it felt very Andy Griffith.
It's just like, yeah, I don't trust you very, very much. Because it's like Canton, Ohio, right? I don't know how large Canton. Apparently large enough to have a wonderfully stocked wax museum.
Mm-hmm. With real artifacts.
Right, but not a great sheriff.
No. And so I wrote, the sheriff is a simple man.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, look, he was there. Nobody else was anywhere in the vicinity for miles. And he's like, usually it's somebody who's close to the victim, and what it looks like is what it is. So here you go. He's just simplifying the whole thing. Yeah. So then Sam and Dean ask to talk to Jim, the friend. So they're talking to him in the interrogation room, and he opens up and tells them about the car and how it's cursed. And they're like, cursed? What do you mean? And he's like, little bastard. And then Dean gets so excited. He's like, little bastard? The little bastard? So then he geeks out about it. And Dean says to Sam, he's like, we are definitely checking this out.
Yeah, he's so excited to be on this.
Yeah, we know he loves James Dean.
And I'm surprised that, I don't know, I still don't really understand like how they hear about these deaths. I know that they like read about them in the paper.
Okay.
But is the paper like reporting, oh, it's a mysterious death, and all of like the details, like this man died within his own garage, but he looked like he was going 80 miles per hour, like, because he knows all of those facts, and it's like, how does he know all of this? I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah, and the other thought that I just had too while you were saying that is they also wouldn't have been tipped off that this was anything weird if it had just been reported normally, because they don't know that it has anything to do with idols. It's just somebody dying.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless the paper is reporting it as like a weird death or mysterious or something, they're not gonna think it's out of the ordinary.
I think it would have made more sense, I think, just from my perspective, if the papers would have reported a alleged little bastard, like it's involved, and then it would have made more sense for Dean to be like, oh shit, like we gotta check this out. Yeah, it's little bastard.
Yeah, they should have just done that from the start,
right?
Yeah, that would be a good reason for them to go, and he'd be like, okay, well, yeah, I know the devil and all, but little bastard over here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then they find out about the car, and we cut to Sam and Dean in the garage with the car, taking a look at it. And Sam goes, so is this like Christine? And Dean says, Christine is fiction. This is real. He says that after James Dean died, his mechanic bought it and the car fell on him. And then Tony McHenry was killed in it when it locked up on the racetrack. And he was just like, anyone who touches this car dies. And it disappeared in the 1970s when it was loaded onto a truck and just went away. And then they have to check the VIN number to see if it's actually James Dean's car. And so they raise it up, and Dean very cautiously gets underneath. And he's like freaking out. He hears like creaking metal all around him, and he's afraid it's going to fall any second. And then Sam comes down and he's like, hey, how's it going? Just like breaks the mood.
Completely startles him. I mean, to be fair, like whether or not it's Little Bastard, that would freak me out too.
Yeah, you know? Totally. And he doesn't know yet either. It totally could be, and people have died around it, and it's creepy. Yeah. And Sam's just oblivious. And so Dean's just like, leave me alone. Go away. He gets the VIN number and like jumps out from under the car. He just gets out as soon as possible. And then he gives the VIN number to Sam, and he tells him to research all the owners all the way back to 1955. And Sam's like, what the hell? Basically, this is a whole afternoon of research. He's like, well, you're welcome. You like that, so enjoy.
Yeah. He's just kind of ordering him around, you know, and I did, even though this episode didn't do a lot well, I did love that they talked about this dynamic between them, about the fact that Dean is always ordering Sam around. He's always treating him like the little brother, and Sam's not going to take that shit anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Moving on.
And it's definitely something that we have seen and hasn't really been addressed like this, like head on. They've just been dancing around it, and a lot of the issues are obviously because of that. So, yeah, I agree. I was really glad that we at least addressed that finally. And Sam stood up for himself and really explained it, and Dean understood, and they made progress.
They did.
So Sam goes off to research, and then we see Dean at a bar. He's flirting with the bartender, and he's like, oh, you want to be an actress? Well, what do you know? And then he pulls out a stack of business cards and rifles through them until he gets to like a talent agent card.
Yeah.
And gives her that. And then he gets a call from Sam, and Sam tells him that the car is not actually Little Bastard. So they're like, well, now what? They're confused about what killed Cal. And also Sam's like, are you at a bar? And he's like, no, I'm at a restaurant. And she's like, here's your beer.
Like very loudly.
Rats him out. So that was funny. And Sam's pissed because he's like, I'm working my ass off and you're drinking.
Yeah. I mean, totally true. He is over here just, you know, having fun, flirting around. But I remember when we were watching this episode together, you got very, very excited because Dean said something about being up Christine's skirt.
Yes, he did. He did. Did you clip that for me?
I clipped two different versions, and here's why. Because this is actually what he does say, like the full length of it. And you'll just hear.
Hey, world's smallest violin, pal. I spent the afternoon up Christine's skirt. I needed a drink.
I was so excited. I was like, play that over and over.
But I was like, okay, but it sounds like he didn't want to be up Christine's skirt. No. So I just clipped this tiny little version for you.
Spent the afternoon up Christine's skirt.
Yeah! Woo! I love it.
I would say that's awesome.
Damn you. You've got a whole soundboard.
I do, man. So we now have that.
Christine's skirt.
I'm going to keep that forever.
I love it. Wait, play it one more time.
Spent the afternoon up Christine's skirt.
I need a fan.
Hot.
It's a little warm in here.
Is your makeup melting right now?
Oh man. Sorry, Jensen. I just had to.
It's pretty great.
It's great. Yeah, I was kind of freaking out about it when we watched it.
Yeah.
You're welcome, everybody. All right, so now they're really confused about what killed Cal. We cut to just a random house at night, and inside, the cleaning lady is leaving her shift, and she's leaving for the night. And so she says goodbye to this man who's like working in his study. And as soon as she leaves, the room gets cold and his breath comes out in a fog. And he turns around and he says, "You're dead. You're supposed to be dead." And gets up. And then we see fucking Abraham Lincoln standing behind him with like a real, like, mean face.
Yeah.
And Lincoln grabs him by the neck. And then we hear a gunshot and see blood splatter on a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation.
It's probably real too, because they have real artifacts here.
It's the real Emancipation Proclamation. That's awesome.
Apparently they can get anything
he stole
in this
it,
town.
like the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. This whole thing just pissed me off, and like multiple parts of it. So like, why would he react that way? Why would he react like, you're supposed to be dead?
I don't know. That was such a weird reaction, because I watched this part with John too, and he was like, no, I'd be like, there's some crazy guy dressed up as Abraham Lincoln in my house.
Right. We've seen it. We've seen it so many times, people dressed up as Abe Lincoln. It could be, are you fucking Daniel Day-Lewis? Like, what, why would it be your first reaction is like, this is actually Abraham Lincoln.
And he's supposed to be dead. No. Right. I'd be like, intruder, run away screaming, call 911.
Exactly. It's weird. It's so weird.
Really weird.
And also, I had to rewind because, and we'll get to it in a second, this whole Consuela thing.
Oh, can we please talk a lot about Consuela?
Oh my God.
Anyway, carry on, but we have to talk about her.
We do. We have to, because one, like, I love seeing, Latin characters, Latino characters, and Latina characters, but of course it's like a complete stereotype, and she's like talking hysterical Spanish in the next scene. But also she acts like she doesn't speak any English, or she's written that way. Mm-hmm. But in that scene, I rewinded it. She says she speaks English to Mr. Hill before he dies. She says, "Okay, Mr. Hill, I finished."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like,
And then we get into that scene too, and she is only speaking Spanish, but still like she understands English perfectly. And then she says, "Yes, Abraham Lincoln." So if she knew who Abraham Lincoln was too, why didn't she just say it was fucking Abraham Lincoln? Or it was someone dressed up like Abraham Lincoln. It was that. There's your description.
No, yeah. It's it's fucking insane.
None of it makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that she was like describing him, and then they're like trying to work out in their head what this looks like, and she's like, it was El Presidente Lincoln, and it was like, well, why
they're like, oh, it sounds like Abraham Lincoln. She goes, see, like cries. She's like, Abraham Lincoln killed Mr. Hill.
Yeah,
stop it.
It was like, what is happening? And then she's like, shit. So I go home now, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. But it was it was so weird. Although
it was kind of problematic.
It was very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like jumped into that scene, but that's basically what happens, right? Next scene is like they get to the sheriff, he's blustering around the crime scene being a dummy, and then Sam and Dean show up, and the sheriff keeps trying to brush it off as like, no, this is something normal for sure, and trying to pass it off on something, and they're like, okay, no. So then they go out and they talk to Consuela and have that whole conversation. And yeah, it was just, and the sheriff had said like, well, she's not making any sense in English and she's not making any sense in Spanish either. It's like just the way that they talked about her. And of course her name is Consuela. I feel like every cleaning lady in any movie or anything, her name is always Consuela.
Yeah.
Why?
It's crazy.
There are other names.
I don't know. I don't really know if it's that common. I don't know. I've never met a Consuela. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I don't think I have either. I don't think I've ever met a Consuela. Maybe one, like somewhere in my past, but
yeah. But it is definitely a name that is commonly used for these types of characters.
And when I don't know, I just didn't really buy it either, because when she speaks English, she has a very good English accent. It's like, okay. But so anyway, glossing over that, they find out that her description of the killer is Abraham Lincoln, and they're very confused. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
So then we cut to the motel, and they're both researching. They each have a laptop, and Dean's watching the video that Jim took of Cal when he found him dead. And he's kind of going over it, and he sees something flash in like the wheel well, like the tire, and he freeze frames it, and there's like a reflection of James Dean in the wheel.
Yeah, it totally looks
like
James Dean.
And so Dean's like, okay, am I crazy or does this look like James Dean? And Sam's like, no, that looks like James Dean. So then they're wondering, okay, could this be a case of famous ghosts? Sam says that there's a ton of lore on famous ghosts, even more than the normal kind, and he's surprised that they haven't met any before now, which is kind of cool. Like, maybe they'll do that at some point and like actually meet a famous ghost. They should.
Yeah. That would be cool.
And Sam says, but it seems like they're ganking their fans. So yeah, that's where he says gank.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know, no, I guess it works with the James Dean stuff and the Abraham Lincoln nut, but later on I just have an issue with the whole.
It breaks down.
Yeah.
It breaks down. Okay, well, we'll talk about that too. So yeah, he says that Professor Hill was a Civil War nut and loved Lincoln. Cal was a James Dean freak. So then Sam and Dean are confused about why Abraham Lincoln and James Dean's ghosts would be chilling in Canton. It doesn't make sense. So then Sam finds something online and they go to investigate it. So we cut to a wax museum. And in the wax museum is a thing of, a figure of Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
And there's one of Gandhi, some other people around the room.
And they do look really good. They look very well made.
Yeah, they're good quality wax figures. Then the museum curator, I guess that's his title. I don't know that this is like a real museum, but okay. Yeah. He comes down and meets them, and Sam and Dean tell him that they're writing a piece for a travel magazine about how, quote, non-sucky wax museums are. So then he's really excited.
Yeah, but he doesn't even question, like, are you really a writer? You couldn't find a better word for that?
He's just like, great. So then the curator tells them about how they can stay open because they have regulars. And you and I were like, a wax museum has regulars?
Yeah, who's like regularly visiting this museum? It's crazy.
Serial killers.
Yeah, it's fucking... Yeah, it's just creepy. And creepy. Also, I know, and I hadn't even made the connection that like House of Wax is literally about a creepy ass wax museum. So like they were just really...
Maybe they were just struggling for an episode and it was like, well, Sam just did or not Sam, but Jared did this movie. He's friends with Paris now, and she said she would do a show. Let's just kind of go off of this. I don't know.
Well, what's also weird about it is that I think season 5 is like 2009, and that movie was made in 2005. It came out in 2005. So it had been out for a while. So that's like 4 years. That's like a big difference. And then I just really feel like they were like, I don't know. I don't fucking
either.
know. I don't know what to tell you. Like either they were like, we got Paris. Well, what can we do with that? Let's just fucking make a House of Wax type of episode and then base off everything. That's our jumping off point, basically.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But then
instead of like really figuring out a story.
But the House of Wax thing breaks down too. I don't know. It's just a...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No. Anyway, you'll see why.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's just a backdrop. This wax museum is just the backdrop. So let me see. Yeah, he tells them about the regulars, and then Sam asks if there's anything special about the place that they can put in the article. And the man says, he's like, well, yeah, we got a lot of things. That hat on Abraham Lincoln is Honest Abe's real hat. They also have James Dean's keychain, Gandhi's bifocals, the Fonz's leather jacket.
I mean, how?
But why? There is no reason any of those things would be in this museum. No. Abraham Lincoln's hat would be in a fucking historical, like a big museum.
Yeah,
not in a wax museum in Canton.
Wax museum. And I was even kind of like, well, did he grow up in Ohio? But no, he like famously grew up in like Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Or like some other state.
Yeah. Something like that. For sure. He's not from Ohio.
Yes, I can confirm that.
Confirmed. Kentucky?
But it's yeah, Kentucky. But it's it doesn't make any sense. Why do they have Gandhi's glasses of all things? Gandhi's
That would be in a fucking museum too, like under glass, not on a wax figure's face.
No. For everyone to touch. It's not. No.
It doesn't. Sorry. So then the man tells Sam and Dean that he's working on some new figures for the kids. You know, Gen Y.
The kids. And he's like, computer games, cell phones,
all
sexting.
The things they're into. I mean, I can attest to that. You know, it's not wrong.
I mean,
it's not wrong.
Yeah, same. There was a lot of all of that going on around this time. So
that's so funny. So then that night, Sam and Dean are at the motel packing up their guns. Sam walks into the motel room. This was kind of a cool shot, actually, because we see it from Sam's perspective, and we just see a hand pushing the door open, and you look in and you see Dean on the far side of the motel room, and he's on the cell phone, like turned around and looking away, and he doesn't hear Sam come in. And then he's talking about how maybe the ghosts there are all hot and bothered because of the apocalypse, and he goes, yeah, well, we all know whose fault that is. Yeah. It's not
had
cool.
to rewind because I was like,
he did that.
Wait, what did he say? Did he really say this? And then like Sam confronts him and Dean is like, yeah.
He like blows it off.
That.
Yeah.
Right. Not that big of a deal, whatever. But he's like straight up talking shit.
Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't even tell him who he was talking to at first. So then Sam closes the door and Dean hears it and turns around and sees him. And he's like, I'll call you back, or I'll call you later or something. And he hangs up. And Sam was like, who was that? And he was like, Dean asked him another question, like, you ready to go or something like that. And he's like, who was that on the phone? He has to ask him again. And he says, it's Bobby. So he's talking shit about him to Bobby. And then, so then Sam, like, kind of, like you said, he confronts him about it. And he's like, so am I just going to pretend like I didn't hear what I just heard? And Dean's like, take it or leave it, basically. Do it or not, I don't care. And he's like, but I'm leaving. And then Dean just picks up his jacket and walks out the door. So Sam's just left by himself. He's like, all right. Then Sam and Dean show up at the wax museum with their guns. They grab a trash can and Lincoln's hat and throw it in the trash can and get ready to light all of these objects on fire. Then Dean goes off to get James Dean's keychain, I guess somewhere else in the wax museum.
Yeah.
And while he's gone, Sam has this very uncomfortable stare down with Abraham Lincoln.
It was actually nail biting. Like I was actually kind of freaked out by it.
Me too. I was super freaked out. I was like, something's gonna happen. His eye's gonna move. Something's gonna happen. I could feel it, but it didn't. And he was like inches from his face, and they were.
I don't know
why
he would get that intensely. Close. It doesn't make any sense.
It's scary. And then suddenly, while he's staring at Lincoln, all the doors to that room slam shut, and Sam's locked in. Then he's standing around with his gun, like on guard, and the gun is pulled out of his hands by nothing, it seems like, and thrown across the room. And then he's attacked by Gandhi. Gandhi jumps him, and they start fighting, and he's trying to strangle Sam.
He kind of like spider monkey attacks him.
Just like springs onto his back. And then Dean busts in. And he just stares at him and he's like, is that Gandhi? You're not helping.
No.
And so then he goes over to the wax figure of Gandhi and takes off the glasses and burns them. And then the spirit Gandhi disappears. Vanishes. Just vanishes.
Yeah, none of this makes sense.
No, it doesn't. So in the next scene, it's the next morning and they're packing up to leave, and Sam is still bothered by how Gandhi just vanished. He's like, he didn't burst into flame or anything the way that ghosts usually do.
Yeah, that's true.
And he just feels weird about it because he also felt like when Gandhi was attacking him, he was trying to bite him. Like he was hungry. And he's like, I don't know why that would be, because the real Gandhi was a fruitarian.
Is that what he was saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Like he's not a meat eater anyway.
That doesn't make any sense. But it also, it makes slightly more sense than what I thought he was saying, which is that he idolizes Gandhi because he's a fruitarian.
Yeah, I don't think that was the reason why. He just knows that about him.
Okay.
But then Dean gives him shit. He's like, let me get this straight. So your idol wears diapers and is a fruitarian. Oh my God. So rude.
It's so rude. But it's also, it was kind of like random for me that like, I guess I could see Gandhi being Sam's idol, but it was just so like, I don't know, out of nowhere. Like,
and kind of stereotypical too. Like we already think of Sam as like this kind of like deep feeling, deep thinking person. It's like, oh, well, who should he worship or idolize? Oh, Gandhi.
Yeah, we could have gone with somebody a little bit different. Yeah, for sure.
And so Sam just feels weird about all of that. Like it doesn't add up. But Dean's just done with it. He's like, look, I burned the glasses. He went away. It was a ghost. Like a weird one, but it's gone. So we're done. And Sam's like, okay, so you dragged me into town and now you're dragging me back out. And Dean says, you're not steering this boat. Let's go, chop chop. He's like ordering him out.
Yeah.
And then Sam's like, you know what? This isn't going to work. He's like, I thought it could, but it can't. And he starts explaining that he's trying to build trust again with Dean, but he's not making it any easier. He says, if we're going to be a team, it has to be a two-way street. And Dean's like, so we just go back to the way it was before? And Sam's like, no, before it didn't work. One of the reasons I went off with Ruby was to get away from you.
Yeah.
Ooh. But it makes sense based on what we saw, because Sam was being treated like a kid all the time, and he was keeping him on a tight leash. Like, it adds up.
And I feel like we've heard him say this before, but I can't remember where it was or which episode it was, but I feel like he's kind of alluded at least to this fact.
I think so too. But they just didn't really face it, and Dean didn't get it.
No.
And Sam also explains it more, he's like, I did it to get away from you. And he says, it made me feel strong, like I wasn't your kid brother. If we're going to do this, we have to do it different. You have to let me grow up, for starters.
Yeah, fair point.
Dean needed to hear that. Suddenly, Dean gets a call, and he gets off the phone and he tells Sam, he's like, well, I guess you were right about this not being over with the ghost thing. So then they are at the sheriff's office again, and the sheriff just looks very confused. They're like, what happened? And he's like, I don't know.
It's not what it seems.
No.
After all.
Yeah, it's not. He was thinking it was like a rogue CIA agent or something. So then they walk into this office behind where the sheriff is, and there are these two teenage girls in there. And they both have tears in their eyes, and these like cute little blonde teenage girls. And one is like, that was horrible. And the other one's like, I thought she would be nice. And then the other one says, she took Danielle. Like, they're just going back and forth. And they're like, who took Danielle? And one of the girls goes, it was Paris Hilton.
So
Sam
ridiculous.
makes that face where he's like, what? Sorry?
What are you telling me right now?
Oh, and then what they say here, they were like, yeah, she just took her. She was skinny. And the other one says, skinny and fast.
I did like that line. Although I did have to rewind it because I thought that she had said she was skinny and so fat.
And fat.
Like at PH.
Oh, yeah. Well, they've used that before in the show, so it was a possibility.
They have.
Yeah.
I was excited. No, but she said fast.
Did we get another PHAT? Oh, man. I'm so glad that word died.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it didn't
work. No, it didn't work. So after hearing that, Sam and Dean are like, okay. And they go off to talk by themselves. And they're like, okay, obviously we missed something because Paris Hilton isn't dead. So she can't be a ghost.
Yeah, there's that.
Uh-huh. All the others are dead people, so it kind of made sense, but she's not dead. So then Sam is in scrubs and plastic gloves, and he's going through autopsy reports. And he has Cal out. Like, we just skipped a lot. He's gotten himself into the morgue. He's checking out the body. And he cuts him open and pulls out like two little balls from inside his body. We can't tell what they are yet. He's just like, what the hell?
Well, and then, he also like reaches inside of this body, just reaching around. He's not like looking or anything. And he like, they really are tiny. Like, how did he manage to grab on? I don't know.
How did he know where to look?
Yeah, it was really weird, random.
Of all the places you could look in this guy's body for something weird, why would you go there and then happen to find these two little balls? That's weird. Yeah. I don't know. So then he's outside talking to Dean, and he's like, the victims had major blood loss, like something fed off of them. And then he shows him the little balls in this little plastic baggie, and he says they're seeds. And Dean's like, what? Gross. Okay. But Sam's like geeking out about it. So they take it back to the motel, and he researches them and finds out that the seeds are from a forest in the Balkans that was chopped down about 30 years ago. The forest was guarded by a mischievous god named Leshy, who could take on infinite forms. The god could only be appeased with blood from his worshippers. They guess that if Leshy touches something that belonged to someone else, then he can turn into that person. So like if he touched Abraham Lincoln's hat, he could turn into Abraham Lincoln. If he touched James Dean's keychain, then he could turn into James Dean, etc.
And it always bothered me that we don't find out what he touched
of Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, they didn't tie that up. How did we get to Paris Hilton? Anyway, probably like one of her bras or something on the wax figure. It's so fucking weird.
That's what they have.
So then the website, this like wonderful website where Sam is getting all of his information about Leshy, says that the way to kill Leshy is to chop off his head with an iron axe. And I was like, wow, the internet just has everything now. It's just so helpful.
Yeah. He's just getting all of this information. Remember when they used to look at like their dad's journal for
books?
This information?
Yeah.
No, it's just the internet. The internet's got it.
Look,
Crazy.
this is the way of Gen Y. It's all going that direction.
Yeah.
So they go back to the museum with an iron axe. They look around and it's like nighttime. They've got flashlights out. They're searching around. And Sam finds a section of the museum that's closed for remodeling. They break in and it's set up to look kind of foresty, which is funny.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird because I assumed that this was like the new exhibit that
it's for the kids.
Wax guy, the curator. It's for the kids, but I was like, but us kids don't like nature. We don't like being outside. So
and then like one of the other figures that's in there is like clearly some old historical figure anyway, like from a past war or something. And I was like, this isn't interesting.
That's right.
What are you doing?
I thought maybe it might be like Mark Twain or something, but no, it doesn't. Like, or Samuel Clemens.
Yeah, it might be.
It just looked because he looked like he was on a porch or something. I don't know.
So they go into this area and look around and they see the teenage girl who was kidnapped. She's tied to a tree. And they go over and start to untie her, but then Paris Hilton attacks them. And she kicks their asses.
What?
And knocks them both out.
She does.
Because she's skinny and fast.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
And like, I was very, I was like, I think even when we were watching it together, I was expecting her to say like,
yeah,
that was hot, or something like that, after she kicks her asses. And she instead says, awesome. Which was actually, just as great. But she did not say that's hot in this episode. And I was very upset.
She didn't. She does say later something like, that's not sexy or something, which is pretty funny. So, yeah, she knocks them out, says, awesome. And then they wake up to her sharpening a knife, and they're both tied to trees.
Yeah.
So then she starts talking about how glad she is that they could be here for this. She's looking forward to slowly preparing her meal and taking her time with it and really enjoying this. She says that when she was the forest god, people used to throw themselves at her with smiles on their faces. But now they don't really care. Like Dean says something rude, like, I guess they don't care about a washed up forest god or something. And she's like, no, not now that the forest is cut down. She said, but then the best thing ever happened. Someone tripped the apocalypse. And she decided that she wasn't going to scrounge for scraps anymore. And she said, I want to pig out. Hilarious.
Yeah, they didn't really mention like why the apocalypse affected Leshy. I guess just because like, I don't know, it's the fucking apocalypse. And
yeah, I guess she was just like, well, they're going to be busy with all that other apocalypse shit, so I can eat some people and not get caught for it or something.
Right.
Just fly under the radar. So then she says that the Wax Museum is great because it's filled with adoring fans. And basically she'll take what she can get. Like turning into other people.
But she says it's filled with adoring fans. How many people visit this wax museum? Like,
what the fuck?
Seriously.
There's nobody there.
No.
And then Dean basically says that she's crazy, and she's like, no, you people, you're crazy. And she like gestures to herself. She's like, this is what passes for idolatry? What do they have other than small dogs and spray tans? It was really funny.
Yeah.
So then she kind of gets into it with Dean, and he says, he's like, well, you can't eat me because I'm not a fan of yours. And he's like, I've never even seen House of Wax. Haha.
And actually, he has two references here because he says, I don't want to be Paris's BFF. And then he says, I've never even seen House of Wax. And Sam makes like a face. Mm-hmm. But when he said that, Paris's BFF, I was like, that sounds familiar. What is that? And I looked it up, and Paris had her own, I think it was on MTV, her own reality TV show. It was like a competition TV show where people would like battle it out to like be her new BFF. And it came out in 2008.
Oh my God.
Yes. So like
that is so fucking funny.
Instead of The Bachelorette, it's like, you know,
be my best friend.
Be my best friend, literally. Like, so this was obviously like after,
so sick.
I think, you know, after A Simple Life had finished and everything. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, was she not friends with Nicole Richie anymore? Or like, were they just taking a break or something? I have no idea. Or actually, I think they were never actual like friends. It was just kind of a, you know, for the show and everything.
I think so too. I think I heard that.
Yeah.
They weren't like, they just, I don't know, they weren't like naturally close.
No. And so, and then I looked up like the show and I found that it had a lot of guest stars. It had Benji Madden, who I think she was dating at the time, right? Because like Nicole Richie's married to Joel Madden from the twins of Good Charlotte. But I think Paris dated Benji.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar to me. And then Kathy Hilton, Fergie, Simple Plan.
Oh my God.
Perez Hilton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ryan Seacrest, Nikki Hilton, Keisha Cole, and Nick Swartzen, which is a random.
Oh, that's weird.
I know.
Weird. I know, but he really stands out among the whole group.
I know. Weird. And the show actually had a second season, a UK version, and a Dubai version.
Oh God.
So it's like find your BFF and then like
get new BFFs.
Them, and she gets new ones every season.
You're only so good for a year, just so you know. When you sign this BFF contract, it expires after 1 year.
That's all you're good for. So I may have to watch that because it sounds terrible.
Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Let me see. So she knows that she can't eat Dean if he's not like a fan of hers. And she's like, but I can read your mind. And your hero is your daddy. And that axe you brought belonged to him. So she has a way to like touch something of his and turn into John. And then she says, poor little Dean, all you ever wanted was to be loved by your idol. One distant father figure coming right up. Jesus.
Yeah. And that's so interesting that Dean, he doesn't, we would think that his idol is like
James Dean.
That's yes. I was trying to think of somebody like I don't know, like what's his name? Steven Tyler, like, or like, you know, somebody
Frank Zappa like, or something like that.
Yeah,
Robert Plant.
Just like you know, also a ladies' man and all that. But yeah, it's his dad. Like, it's really his dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
sad.
And again, it's a deeper choice for him than for Sam, you know? Like,
yeah, Sam is Gandhi.
Gandhi being his
that makes
idol
that even worse.
It doesn't give us more about his character, and that was why it was
what if they had said that his idol was Dean?
I would have died. I would have. That would have been so sweet. Yes. Yeah. What the hell?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, just saying. Let's rewrite all the episodes the way we think they should be written now.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So, Dean's like, oh, fuck, no. You're not going to turn into my dad. She turns around to touch the axe and turn into John, but then Dean breaks out of his ropes and attacks her. While they're fighting, Sam breaks out of his ropes too and grabs the axe. And then Dean knocks Paris down and she falls on the ground and just like spreads out like very nicely for Sam to then chop her head off with the axe.
Yes.
And it's like repeated chopping.
Yeah, it's like American Psycho, like blood splattering on his face.
Yes, all over his face. It's intense. And then we cut to a shot of Paris's severed head on the ground, like kind of rolling on the ground. And then Sam turns around with like blood on his face and like a smirk and tells Dean, dude, you just got wailed on by Paris Hilton.
Yeah,
Dean's like, shut up.
So happy about that. Mm-hmm. But I was really surprised that they showed Paris's head.
Yeah, it was good.
It was bold. I liked it.
I liked it too. Then they're leaving the motel, and Dean gets off the phone and tells Sam that the sheriff reported to him that Danielle, the teenager, is all right, and that she's sworn off the simple life, and that the sheriff also put out an APB on Paris Hilton. And he just starts laughing.
Oh my god.
He's like, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
And then they put their stuff in the trunk and they're standing behind the Impala. And Dean stops and he kind of says, you know, I was thinking about what you said about me keeping a tight leash on you. And I think you're right. Dean says that he's not totally innocent either. He broke the first seal. And Sam's like, yeah, but you didn't know. And Dean says, neither did you. Thank you for acknowledging that. He didn't know what he was doing. And so he goes through this and Dean says, you know, who would have thought that killing Lilith would have been a bad thing? You thought that you were just going to kill Lilith, and we didn't know that that was wrong.
Yeah.
And he said, I was so worried about watching your every move that I didn't see what it was actually doing to you. And for that, I'm sorry.
Well, Dean, you're finally fucking growing up. Thank you.
They're both grown up, man.
Yeah, they're not little kids anymore.
And he really thought about it. You know, that tells me that Dean really did think about what Sam said and reflected on where Sam's coming from, because, you know, just for him to acknowledge, like, and he says, like, I'm not going to say the demon blood thing was the best way to go, but we didn't know that what you were trying to do was bad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. He takes some of the blame himself.
Yeah. It's a nice way to end things for both of them.
Yeah.
And it moves it along. I'm really glad that like we're not going to stay in this area of like Dean being super mad at Sam. Mm-hmm. Because it just makes their teamwork that much harder. Mm-hmm. And I did mean to mention at the beginning of the episode though, I don't know whether Dean has really told Sam about the alternate universe stuff. Do you remember if last episode if he did at the end, or he was just like, hey, yeah, we got to get back together?
I don't think he said anything to him about it.
Yeah, I feel like he kind of kept that from him.
He just got out of it and then called him and they met up and he was like, okay, we're back together.
Yeah.
And that was it.
So I don't know. It just made me think again, like, this is great. This is him opening up to him, but yeah, he hasn't actually completely opened up everything.
Yeah, he's still keeping some things to himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Sam says thanks, and he says, you know, I only see one way, like forward, basically. And he's like, you know, there may not be any changing the fact that we're destined to be like Lucifer and Michael's vessels. But basically he just says we just need to keep going and keep fighting. Like whatever fight we come across, we just need to hit it hard and, you know, keep moving. Mm-hmm. And he says, but whatever we do, we have to do it on the same level. And Dean's like, sounds good. I'm down for that, you know.
Well, finally.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense to me. Like, if they have now agreed to do things equally, then that's how you move forward. And that is different from how it was being done before.
Yeah.
So
it is really, really different.
And it's a good way to operate from now on. So then they turn to leave, and Dean pauses and turns around and asks Sam if he wants to drive. Oh. And Sam's like,
so sweet.
I know. Sam's like, are you sure? Dean's like, yep, I could use a nap. And he hands him the keys, and then Sam gets in and they drive off. Cute.
Into the sunset. Back together again.
So then, that's when that version of Superstitious starts to play. And then we get the whole soon preview.
Yeah, we do.
Shit, I can't even remember everything that was in it. But I remember most of it. So let's talk.
Yeah, so I just saw it again recently, and I think it shows us several things. I think it shows us like this whole plot about this little boy who is dangerous and Cass doesn't like him, and then it also shows us a very well, first it shows us, I think, Dean playing like cards with this guy. He's kind of hot. And then we also see Sam come upon Bobby and this very old man, and and he's like, "Well, who are you?" And he's like, "Shut up" or whatever. And he's like, "Dean?" So like,
because I think when they were playing poker, one thing I caught was like, let's play for years. And he's like, this is 25 years, and like pushes the chips forward. So he's like betting 25 years of his life or something.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And then what I skipped over is we see Sam getting hit in the balls and a Japanese man laughing hysterically.
Oh, like a Japanese game show.
And we see also Sam coming in and saying something about the apocalypse, and Dean saying something witty back, and a laugh track.
It's like really brightly lit, and it looks like they're on the set of like a living room. And they're like, ha ha, the apocalypse.
So I'm really, really excited. As for those listeners, those of you who have seen Supernatural before, episode 8 is just around the corner, which is changing channels, and it's one of the best episodes of Supernatural, and that's
awesome.
Those 2 scenes are from that episode. I'm so excited to get there.
Well, and that title gives me a clue about what this is going to be like, kind of.
Yeah, because it also ends with Sam like putting on some sunglasses, looking all badass.
It's like Miami Vice. He looks like they're both trying to be the guy from Miami Vice, and he's like talking like him. And, yeah. It was really funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck is happening? They sure packed a lot into the next, like, however many episodes. I don't know how far out this is going, But, shit.
And that's the thing, because whenever we've seen these soon episodes, they're usually like very focused on the actual plot of the season. They're like, like I think the last time we saw it, like it had to do with Lilith, and it was like, we're going to come upon Lilith and this is going to happen, demons and blah, blah, blah. And then this is actually showing the next 3 episodes.
Okay.
And it's kind of like,
and it almost felt like a blooper reel too, because it was like kind of goofy and like funny clips and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it was showed like old Dean, like when he shows up, they're like going up some stairs and he's all winded, and Sam points to the number 2 and they're only on the 2nd floor.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Like, it's just funny stuff that's coming up, but it's not like plot heavy stuff that is coming up, and it's just weird. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. It's like, oh my God, what are they getting into now?
Right. What's about to happen? So I thought that was an interesting choice for them to use that all of a sudden.
Yep. Me too, but I was excited for it, and it was kind of fun. It was a surprise at the end of watching it for note taking because we didn't see it
Yeah.
when we watched it together, and so then at the end of note taking, it came on, and I was like, "Oh, oh, what is this?"
Yeah, we had totally missed it before. Damn it!
Yeah.
But I wonder if they put it there because it was like, well, this is a really bad episode. let's keep our watchers intrigued
Maybe.
and just put this soon. You know, you may have not liked this episode, but here's some
But I
good
promise
stuff.
there's good stuff coming.
Right.
Please keep watching. Yeah, maybe so. They kind of needed to convince me. This was an interesting episode because it felt like they still had the high production value of the new episodes, the later, more recent episodes. The direction was still pretty good. The shots were all done nicely. It seemed like they just had the money for like there was a fair enough budget for this episode. It was just the script. It was just like the plot of this episode. It was like, what is happening here? It was so weird. And you can't, like, all that other stuff, even if it's really good, it can't save the episode if you have a bad script.
No, and not at all. It just, I don't know why they felt that they needed to have so many twists in this episode. It was literally like
4 or something. There were so many.
Yeah, it was 4 different things at least. Yes. And I feel like we've seen one episode at least that was like that before, that just bugged us because of that, because it was like, it was too many twists, but I can't recall which one that was.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find it if we thought about it.
Yeah.
But that's definitely how it felt. It was like, oh, it's famous ghosts. No, it's not ghosts at all. It's something they couldn't figure out what it was. But then also we had a lot of problems at the beginning with using James Dean's car. There was no point to that because it wasn't his car.
No.
So what the fuck was that like the stuff that happened earlier in the episode wasn't explained by this being done by a forest god. Why would Leshy turn into James Dean and then hang out in this dude's garage? And then how did you even do that still? How does a god kill somebody like that?
Yeah. And
it seemed like paranormal or something because you would still have to get up to like a high speed and somehow kill this guy. Like it just doesn't, I don't know.
Yes, we didn't even touch on that because the fact is
that
I know, yeah. And he had died based upon like the way that James Dean had died. Like why was that little detail added? And then Abraham Lincoln, I think the guy was like shot in the head, and it was like, okay, so
like Abraham Lincoln.
Right, like Abraham Lincoln. But then Gandhi's just literally trying to bite Sam, and then Paris Hilton
is just attacking them.
Alive. Yeah, it was so weird. And then also they heard like the info about the guy, right? The first guy. Why did they miss that detail that his blood had been drained?
I don't know. That's a good question. They're basically like exsanguinated.
Yeah, and that would have clued them in that's not a ghost.
And I was just thinking too, like we didn't get a rundown of like Leshy's powers, like what Leshy can do, because as Gandhi, he disappeared. He just vanished. And then why would he vanish with the glasses when that wasn't actually connected to him?
I don't know. It was really funky. And I'm honestly like kind of looking pretty low on the list. I'm kind of looking at like the new number 71, like underneath Something Wicked. Out of 86. Just because I look at everything above, like the pilot and Skin and like episodes that came out in season 1 and 2, but were done and written so much better than this episode.
Because then we've got like Folsom Prison Blues and The Usual Suspects and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Like, we did not like the writing in those. It just was not written well, and it kills it.
It really does.
Well, and it's kind of funny. Like, maybe I should kind of make a separation here too, because what the characters said and how they acted was good. Like, the actual like character writing was good, but the situation they were in and like what was happening plot wise, like story wise, was bad.
That's true. I did, like I mentioned, I did really enjoy the Sam and Dean stuff, them working through their issues.
Me too. Well, and like,
good.
Totally. And the funny teenage girls, the blustering sheriff, they all, and Paris having her funny lines, like they all had pretty good lines, and it sounded good from them, but like the story made no fucking sense.
No, it did not.
Okay. What about?
Yeah, I feel like maybe just with the Sam Dean stuff, it just puts it over the bedtime stories and fits in there.
Yeah, and I think I don't like it better than Something Wicked. I do remember that one, and I kind of liked it. I didn't love it, but
really, really good.
Okay, so Fallen Idols is going in as the new number 71, and this one's going in the trunk.
Spent the afternoon up Christine's skirt.
Hello.
Oh my god.
Okay, guys. So let's see. Next episode. I forgot to write it down. What's the name of it? Do you have it? I'm looking it up.
I should know the name of it. I literally just watched it. Silly Kristen. The Children Are Our Future.
Okay. So episode 6 of this season will be The Children of Our Future.
Are our future.
Are our future. The children of our future. Okay, well, that's interesting. I don't know what that's going to be about, except that also that in the playback, that reminded me. Okay, so now I know what it's about. There was like some little kid that was being born. They were like encountering this blonde woman who thought they were demons and threw salt at them, but they weren't demons, and they were like, "How do you know about that?"
Yes.
And then there seems to be some kind of like special child that comes into the picture. So we'll see what that's about.
Yeah. Okay. Special children making a comeback, so.
It always comes back around. Okay, well, we'll talk about that next time, and until then, we'll see you on the highway to hell. Bye.
Bye.